Have fun. Thanks, producer in the background of my ear. Welcome, everyone, to Live at Epiphan. It is Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern, and we're here to talk about some cool stuff related to streaming. Today is one of those things we call kind of a segment show, so this can be broken down into a few different parts. And Dan and I are going to talk about some cool stuff that we have discovered and we want to share with everyone. So welcome. And hey, Dan, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you today, George?
Not bad. It's been a busy day, and things have been chaos as usual.
You're jumping from live show to live show today. You were just on with Intronics and Ben, I think, right before this.
Yeah, between customer demos and of course a webinar earlier. And I see someone in chat saying there's no sound, so maybe we'll get producer Cameron double check that. Okay, so yeah, that might just be my delay in reading that chat. Something went wrong technically, and our little bumper didn't play sound. That was part of the chaos. I
love that song. I wanted to hear it. Oh well.
I know. Oh well. But anyways, we have some cool stuff we wanted to talk to you guys about. The first time we wanted to do our first segment up, the segment that we call the Lowdown / the rundown, depending on who you ask.
The point is that it's down low. That's the key here, George.
Yeah, it's the down low. There we go.
Yes.
Basically, this segment is we're going to go through a bunch of news articles that we've come across in the past little while that we thought were really interesting and were somewhat relevant to live streaming. Not always, but mostly. So what's our first one, Dan?
So came across this pretty cool looking camera. Everyone's familiar with drones, but underwater drones that are 8K. What's going on here? Do you see this, George? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I did take a look at it. It's really interesting because it's, I guess they're building this ROV and just putting like a Sony Alpha camera in there to shoot 4K, which is pretty amazing, actually.
I think they said it's 8K, actually, which is, if you look at some of the images that they're getting here, it's pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah, and I feel like, maybe drones have and drone photography has kind of conquered the skies, and so maybe this is the next thing, right? We have to conquer the oceans with our drones. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of a new way of doing things that's maybe actually achievable. Like ROVs have been around forever. Shooting underwater has been around forever, but it's usually so cost prohibitive that no one really, outside of some super high end James Cameron production, no one really does it, right? So this thing looks pretty cool, actually. It's interesting.
But if you can't afford one of these, which I'm guessing I can't, maybe I can afford one of these. This is the new Insta360 camera.
Yeah.
Is this an action cam? Would we call this an action cam? I don't even know.
You know what? They're trying to position it interesting. I think, first of all, Insta360 for the past couple of years is basically their strategy has been GoPro who? They just keep cranking out these very affordable, super flexible and powerful, 360 cameras. But then this one, I think it could be considered an action cam, but they're also pitching it as like a vlogger cam and just a lifestyle cam and like all this. Like, it's really interesting what they packed into it. Now, I know you can live stream from it using their app, which it's not my favorite thing because I think it's limited to like Facebook or something like that. But you can live stream from it to a degree. But I can't wait until cameras more like this get to a point where, they just have like an HDMI out, right? And some of the bigger Insta360s do, and we've done shows about those in the past. But this one's really interesting. Like, the little case is like a charging piece and a remote and that has the quarter-inch mount for your tripod or whatever, but it's also a stand on itself, like it has a little kickstand. But then the camera itself clips into everything with like magnets, so you can wear like this necklace thing or this pad under your shirt, and the magnet holds it on there. Like, it's really interesting. It's a fascinating approach, and it's really small. And when I was looking at some of the reviews, some of the guys at Linus Tech Tips, fellow Canadians, did an excellent overview of it. If you want to dive into that more, I would check out their video on it because they played with all the different modes like hyperlapse and all this other stuff that's built into it. It's really cool. So if you're looking for a vlogger, action-ish lifestyle camera, I think that's one to definitely consider.
It looks pretty awesome. Apparently, it has really good image stabilization software as well, which with a camera that small, I think you're going to need. So,
Well, that's one of the things that Insta360 has been really good at, even with their smaller 360 cameras that have been popular with motovloggers, because they just stick them on the end of a pole, and the footage they get out of it is 360, totally stable. Like it's pretty incredible what they've been doing.
I got another camera for you here. This is the revision of the Razer Kiyo camera, which, if you remember, was the webcam that had the ring light built in, which I thought was really cool. But this camera, it seems like they're pitching it based on some kind of, they're calling it HDR, I believe.
Yeah.
Have you seen this, George?
I have. I took a little bit of a look at it because it was interesting. I'll be honest, I wasn't blown away with the previous Razer camera. The ring light concept was cool, but the sensor was really not great. The colors were not great, in my opinion. This is definitely an upgraded version. It seems like it's a totally new sensor. It does HDR, it does 1080-60, which is a lot for a webcam. So it's pretty impressive what Razer's trying to tackle here. Now, in typical Razer fashion, they are targeting gamers, obviously. But if it fits your budget and all you need is a webcam, it might be something to consider to kind of up your quality game. And I think we'll be coming back to that later in the show.
Yeah. I got to ask, though, like, they're saying HDR here, it's not actually using an HDR protocol. I think they mean that it has a high dynamic range. Yeah. Like the camera has a big dynamic range, whereas like this isn't spitting out HDR10 or Dolby Vision.
No, not to that extent, I don't think. I think it's mostly an algorithm interpretation of things to try to make it look
so if you have like a blown out window behind you, it'll help you resolve that image.
I think so. I mean, it seems like just compared to their previous camera, it's a big upgrade in sensor anyways. So that's maybe good enough. Their form factor was always pretty interesting, but they cut the ring light. So, if you still need the ring light thing, I guess you still have to buy that separately.
Yeah, I guess. Well, next up, we wanted to dive into this topic a little bit. Global silicon shortage in computer chips. This is from The Guardian. They're saying that the global shortage has reached a crisis point, and it looks like things might get worse before they get better. Have you been following this story, George?
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to. I mean, we are a hardware manufacturer that relies on these supply chains. And let me tell you, it ain't fun. It's awful. I mean, whether you're just the average, person at home that's trying to buy a CPU or a GPU for a little bit of a computer upgrade, or whether you're a company like Epiphan or any company, even Ford Motor Company, you can't get anything to sell because the supply chains are so screwed up. I was talking to a guy who's a local car salesman the other day, and he's just like, I'm trying to book orders for Ford F-150s, which, for those who don't know, the Ford F-150 is the highest selling vehicle on the planet. And he can't book them until like 9 months, a year out, because there's no supply. They're shutting down production lines. Like there's nothing they can do about it. And if Ford can't do anything about it, and all car manufacturers are in the same boat, I mean, there's trouble.
So what has caused this? Is this, I mean, obviously there was disruptions in the supply chain from pandemic issues, but my understanding is that has been mostly solved. There was a fire at a silicon foundry in Japan last week that supplied a lot of the auto manufacturers, so that's concerning. But beyond, is it also just a case of surplus demand as well?
Yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of arguments about it, but some of the most recent stuff I've been watching has been talking about that, initially a year ago, yes, there was massive supply shortages and massive labor shortages in production for this stuff. But then now it's simply just demand. Demand has never been higher, basically, for these chips, and they go into everything now. One metric was showing that, PC sales, just common desktop PC sales, are the highest they've been in a decade. And yes, that demand is driven by the pandemic because everyone had to pivot to upgrade their home setups and get work from home working. But not even just like decent desktop. Like you listen to a lot of gaming channels on YouTube and stuff. They'll rant about GPUs not being available. And fair enough. Good luck trying to upgrade one of those. But it's beyond that. Chromebooks, which are very popular in schools for education, right? Like in many places, they give every student a Chromebook, right? Well, if you can imagine schools that didn't do that yet, needed them when they shut down schools during the pandemic, Chromebook sales are apparently up 200%.
Wow.
Like that's something that everyone laughed at Chromebooks saying they were a joke and no one should even buy them. And their sales are skyrocketing. And now you can't even buy them because there's no chips to build them. So it's a bit of a mess all around. And
it's got to be affecting software streamers as well, because, if you rely on a home-built system or home-built systems, and you can't find a GPU on the shelf in a store these days.
You want a CPU or a GPU, good luck. And I mean, you can get them if you want to pay quadruple or 10 times what the retail price is by scalpers who are flipping them. Yeah. But that's I do not recommend anyone ever do that. Do not pay more than MSRP for any of these things. Just wait. Don't do something stupid and pay $5,000 for a $100 CPU. Like it's just, and I've seen those things. It's stupid.
Well, hopefully we don't have to wait too long. Now, I saw this story, someone who isn't waiting at all, Niagara Falls. They are upgrading their sports and recreation facilities across the city of Niagara Falls with streaming equipment. So, they have this big rec center that they're going to fit with cameras and do some automated streaming, whether you have hockey games or whether you have large-scale events. And I think this is a trend we've been following, is seeing a lot of large arenas saying, hey, we need to provide the infrastructure for streamed events in this venue.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, that's been the way of every market for the past year for sure. But this is definitely starting to kick in a big way. It's curious. I'm really curious what their setup will end up looking like. And I think a lot of these places are starting to invest in it, knowing or thinking that they're going to continue to use it even after they go back to whatever normal is going to look like, by just kind of moving into like a permanent hybrid event kind of thing, which is fascinating. We'll have to see where that goes and what kind of gear they use, because there's going to be a mix of good and bad, right? And people are going to figure that out, right? It's just can end up with what, like Yelp reviews for live streaming out of certain venues. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they, put the right gear in place, but maybe we should give them a call and see if they need any help.
Exactly.
Next up, I know this is a topic you might be able to sink your teeth into, George. Microsoft in talks with Discord. Microsoft trying to buy Discord. Talking about a $10 billion valuation. What does this mean to you, George?
I've seen mixed things on this now. I've heard that apparently Discord actually started this by reaching out to Microsoft, and then I've heard other people saying that this was an attempt for Discord just to find out what their valuation is because they plan on an IPO. So it's like, who the hell knows what's going on? But if this headline is what ends up happening, this is bad. Like, for those who don't know or have never used Discord, Discord is an excellent platform for voice chat, for community interaction, for text chat rooms, for organizing different things. It's great. It's what basically every single PC gamer uses for communication today. Like, nobody, way back in my day, there was TeamSpeak and all these other things. Those are all dead. Discord destroyed them all. But there's some great arguments I've seen from some people looking at this saying, hopefully this isn't the case, because the last time Microsoft bought a platform like that everyone thought was amazing was back in 2011 when they bought Skype. Who's still using Skype? Nobody, because it's garbage now. So the fear is that they'll just drive it into the grave, basically.
Yeah, Mixer, that didn't work out so well either. So
no, exactly. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I'm actually honestly kind of hoping that the rumor of Discord IPO is true. I'll get in on that. Up my stonks game with some Discord.
Now, what is it about gamers pushing technology forward? We keep seeing this, whether it's live streaming technology, whether it's PC software streaming. It seems like the gamers are at the forefront of the curve when it comes to new technologies.
It's demand, right? It's demand to always have to be pushing it forward, right? And a certain expectation of what you're getting out of it, right? It's, if you're gaming, you're trying to run it on like an old slow computer, it's just not acceptable. The performance is bad, so you got to upgrade it, and you're demanding more and more and more. But that's becoming true with these communication methods too. I mean, I've been known to play the occasional game, and the few games that have in-game voice comms are terrible. Like, they're so bad. Where Discord is crystal clear. It's better than Zoom. So, and you can do video in Discord too. You don't even have to use Zoom. So, yeah, it's interesting. But it's just the demand, right? The demand to always have better is the big push. And gaming is a multi-billion-dollar market, right? So you can't ignore it.
Okay, so speaking of the demand for... Well,
this is just causing me depression.
George, this might grind your gears a little bit, talking about demand. A lot of news lately about NFTs. And for those who aren't familiar with the acronym, NFT stands for non-fungible token. And maybe I'll leave you to explain what a non-fungible token is and why people should be aware of this.
I'll be honest, I don't even totally understand it myself, because it's got to be one of the dumbest things I think I've ever heard. But the idea is to basically sell the rights to a non-physical item, right? So it might be a piece of digital art, or in this case, this one you found about someone did a virtual home tour and sold the rights to it for whatever amount of money, and the token they're using to do this is the NFTs, right? So that's if there's anything tangible about it, it's like this piece they're using to link almost like copyright rights from the creator to this new owner, right? It's like buying a piece of artwork, but like you don't actually physically possess it. And so the NFT is supposed to represent the physical possession and you having it. But it just seems so silly to me. I really don't get it. I think I understand the reason why it was created, and I can understand that. Digital art is a big thing, right? I can understand it in that context.
Yeah, well, Beeple just sold an NFT of his everyday digital art. Well, I think it was like 5,000 days of digital art he had done. Sold it for $67 million, something like that.
Right. Right. And,
which is wild, right? But, anyone could download those everydays themselves and have, print them out on, a full scale print if they wanted to. But only the person who owns the NFT,
can legally do it.
Has the license to do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess my question is, who's going to enforce this stuff, right? And then you get other examples, like this one's kind of funny because I don't, who would even pay for this, even if it was real?
I gotta say, this house doesn't even look that impressive, like compared to video game
really
graphics.
I wouldn't want to live there.
Now, apparently the music in this digital house was created by, I think, someone from the Smashing Pumpkins. So there is some, art credibility to this. But at the same time, it's like, I'm watching this tour right now. I didn't pay a cent.
Well, exactly. So it just seems a bit bizarre. The weirdest one I saw, everyone's favorite tech entrepreneur, Jack Dorsey, creator of Twitter, sold the first tweet, which was his first tweet, for like $2.7 million or something like that. Like, that's not art. That's nothing. But he sold basically the rights to what? Like the first tweet. Who cares?
Here it is there.
For $2.9 million. Really? Like, and that's just, this is bandwagon thing, right? NFTs are out there.
Well, I saw the NBA was selling NFTs as well. So you could purchase an NFT for like a sports highlight. You could purchase
right. So what are you going to
an NFT?
Doing? Buy NFTs for autographs from your favorite NBA player? Like, that's just ridiculous. That defeats the whole purpose of that type of interaction in the first place. So it's bizarre. I don't, maybe I'm getting too old for this. I don't know.
I guess we'll see how this plays out, but it seems like it's, maybe a trend that
kids
might be around. So
Again,
that kind of covers it.
I think there's value in it to a degree with the right items in the right way, but I think it's kind of just getting absurd right now.
Okay, let's move on. That covers us for the lowdown, but I think we have another segment lined up here, George, and
we do.
Maybe you can introduce it.
Yeah, so the segment coming up here is what we call In the Kitchen with Dan and George. Basically, these are the news that, we may have chatted about in the company kitchen, were that currently a thing. And usually that has to do with us talking about ourselves. So don't mind the shameless plugs for a moment. But actually, there was some pretty cool news in this past week. Some of the simplest stuff was we put out a video explaining HLS video streaming with Pearls. So anyone who's a Pearl owner or prospective Pearl owner, you're thinking about buying one, and you're curious about using HLS streaming, we put out a video about that. And I believe we mentioned actually on our last show that YouTube had recently opened up public availability for doing HLS streaming. So that's one of the places you can use it. There are other CDNs that are starting to use it, and it's going to grow. HLS has a lot of advantages, and that video kind of dives into what those are. Look at that guy. He doesn't even have proper earbuds in like these fancy ones I have now. Past George is a loser.
Are we streaming HLS right now on this show?
That's a good question, actually. I don't know if Cameron did HLS today or not.
Producer?
No, not today. Not today. I'm hearing in my ear, breaking news, not today. So one of the trade-offs, and we mentioned this in the video, one of the trade-offs with HLS is that its latency tends to be a little bit higher. So it's not always the best choice for live interaction, which this show is. We watch the chat. I'm watching it right now. So it's great for other things. It's not always great for super quick live interaction with participants or viewers because of that increased latency. But it is super stable, so there's that.
Yeah, well, I think this is notable. It's a big shift that YouTube
it is.
Allows HLS now, so it's exciting to see that quality is taking precedence, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so next up, we had another item here that I thought was pretty cool. This is our own Mike Sandler, CEO of Epiphan. Really nice technology piece here in Forbes magazine. Did you see this article?
I did, and I read it top to bottom, and I not even just the bias here of being Epiphan, but honestly, it's a great article. The points made, the discussion points is excellent. I do highly recommend anyone check it out, and it's all about embracing virtual events even after the pandemic, right? And I think we talk about that a lot. I certainly do, and I think this article is bang on. So it's a great read. Hopefully we can put the link to that into chat for people to go check out. But I think it's a fantastic piece. Give it a read and see what you think.
I think he touches on some really interesting points, which is, you can champion engagement through creativity. If you have, there is a strong case for building engagement-based content to generate ROI for your business. So
yeah, absolutely. That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, big time. Let's take a look now. I think we have one more thing we wanted to touch on here in the kitchen, and it was some of the reviews that have been coming in for Pearl Nano, actually.
Yeah.
Have you been paying attention to this?
Yeah, basically all week has been Ermagerd reviews, going back to the old memes. There's so many reviews that came out in the past 2 weeks on Pearl Nano, which we are super excited about. The first one you have up here is from Level 1 Techs. Honestly, his review is awesome. I think it's spot on. The guys at Level 1 Techs do a great job. They really know their tech, as their name suggests. And so I think they did a great job going through it. So if you're curious about Pearl Nano, that's a great one to check out. But there were some others too. What was the next one that came out?
There's a good one here from Aaron Parecki. He did a really nice overview as well.
His camera
yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, his camera work is next level. His lighting is amazing. But his review is also really good. He has some really nice close-up shots in his review, which is great.
Great. So I think we're going to share some links out to those review in the show notes after the show. And if you want to check out some reviews, really just go on YouTube, Pearl Nano Review. You're going to find these videos and
a bunch of them, and there's more coming. So, I guess the next one was actually friend of the show and previous guest of the show, John Moore. He also put out a review. His is geared more towards his kind of perspective as someone who uses pearls in kind of his work life, and so he kind of looks at it from a little bit of a different perspective than those other guys did, and so that's something to check out as well. John's a great guy, and he did a good review, highlighting Pearl Nano and where it can really help you in the right circumstances, basically.
Cool. Well, it's nice to see that we're getting some feedback on it. We birthed this baby and put it out into the world.
And remind people, although most of these reviewers mention at the beginning of their episodes, but it's important to remind, we don't pay for these reviews. Like, we're not sponsoring them. We're just, throwing some product out there and seeing if people want to review it. It's nice
feedback for us too, to see, what people think.
We don't guide them.
Many of the suggestions that we've had in previous reviews get built into firmware updates and things like that as well. So it's a nice way for us to get some feedback on how to make the products better as well.
Yeah. And there was a bunch of others that are maybe kind of reviews, kind of explainers, kind of guides from our partners as well. So those are all independent reviews. But Video Guys, who are our channel resale partner of ours, they also put out some video content around Pearl Nano. So you can always check that out. They always do a great job of that. I even guested on one of their shows talking about that. And our partner in the UK, Holden, also put together an amazing video around Pearl Nano as well. Those guys, man, they know how to do some visuals. They do an amazing job. So it's great. And then the last one I can think of, again, I joined the guys at HuddleCam on a show that they did talking about Pearl Nano paired with like tracking cameras for education use and stuff like that. So that's another one that's out there. We work pretty closely with them, so there's obviously me there with a slightly biased twist to it, but there's some great content out there now talking about Nano, besides our own, which is always fantastic to see.
Right on. Well, I think that kind of wraps it up for In the Kitchen. It was nice to hang out in the kitchen with you for a moment there, George. But we have one final
got from the fridge.
Yeah, there you go. I got my coffee here, so I might have a bit of that. So the last segment we have for today is, I like this segment because I like grinding your gears, George, and that's the name of the segment. So let's throw to it right now. Grind my gears with none other than our very own George.
Yeah, Hibbers. This is definitely a total ripoff from Family Guy. You know what really grinds my gears?
So what grinds your gears today, George?
So, our internal company chat is littered with this, but especially the past week or two, there's been even more of this. And that is, how come a year into this pandemic, governments and some media agencies and a lot of people in general still can't seem to figure out how to do this remote stuff properly? Like, it's embarrassing. It's seriously... Maybe it's petty, maybe it's silly, but I am to the point where it just drives me so crazy that I can't even watch the content. So this is an example of a parliamentary committee here in Canada. And again, this is no knock against the people individually, but like that shot, up this lady's nose, this is bad. This is not good. Like, you can't do that. But sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's bad lighting. Sometimes, more often than not, it's terrible audio. Like, just absolutely.
Well, yeah, these folks are just using like cheap $20, looks like USB headset microphones.
Yeah, and they're fine for meetings, right? Like if you're in a Zoom meeting that's not public, that's not being broadcast, that you're just having a chat with some colleagues. Totally fine. Use a headset with a boom mic. I do all the time. mine is definitely way better than the ones they're using and still didn't cost me a lot. Hot tip, buy a gamer one. It's going to be better. The problem is when it's being broadcast, right? And this is going out to the nation, to the world, whatever it might be. And it's not good and it drives me so crazy. I've seen, I can barely watch the news half the time because they have these remote reporters, bless them. They're trying to do their best from home. But some of their setups are just so bad, either visually or, again, most of the time audio. They're using, Apple AirPods, which they think they spent so much money on, so they must be amazing. But again, hot tip, the microphones on AirPods are great for phone calls. They're not great for anything else. They sound like garbage. Get a real microphone. It doesn't cost that much. And I think what drives me the most crazy about it is I think they're visually ugly because they stand out on anyone. They're just like right out there. But the thing is like, it doesn't cost that much to invest in a decent setup, right? Like I use a Blue Yeti Nano microphone. This is a microphone that you can get for $100 or less. There are plenty of good USB microphones on the market that you can get for $100 or less. And especially when we're talking about our elected officials, our tax dollars pay these people enough that they should be able to walk down to Best Buy and buy a decent microphone, right? Like, or order it on Amazon, whatever. It's kind of unacceptable that they don't have that a year into this. Because let's be honest, like so many of the other things we've been talking about today, some of this remote work for government and for news reporters and things like that, it's not going to stop when the pandemic stops. It's going to continue because it actually has huge advantages. Working remotely for certain things has huge advantages. Like here in Canada, we're a very spread out country, and having our representatives being able to participate in committees and hearings without having to travel from one side of the country to the other for an hour-long committee meeting so that they can stay where they are with their constituents, that's a good thing. That's empowering to democracy. But when you do it badly, then it isn't, right? Because then your message is not conveyed. People tune out. People don't listen because the audio sounds horrible or the visual is horrible. So what's the image you're trying to present? What is the message you're actually trying to get out there? And the quality of your video on audio and all of this plays a critical role in delivering that. And again, like I said, it grinds my gears because to me at this point, I had this literally dialed in the first day when we shut down the Ottawa office, right? I was told over the weekend when it was shut down, our CEO called me and said, hey, this was on like a Saturday afternoon. And he said, listen, as of Monday morning, the office is closed. Figure out your work setup from home. That's it. Well, I mean, it's not hard. By Monday afternoon, I had it figured out. By Thursday of that week, I had a green screen and lighting and everything else figured out. Like in less than a week, I was ready to go. And it wasn't hard. It wasn't expensive at all. Some of it I already owned, and some of it I've upgraded over time. I did start with a webcam, but I positioned it properly. I upgraded to a better camera. I happen to already own the Yeti microphone, but that wasn't hard to acquire either. That's a quick Amazon purchase. So I don't know, Dan, it's I know it drives you nuts too a little bit because you're such a visual audio, like video guy too. Like
can we talk for a second? Can we talk for a second about the backgrounds that a lot of these folks have? We just saw a nice comment there in chat from Vanessa with the wonky virtual backgrounds. That's one thing that grinds my gears is like the fake room behind you that is like color balanced orange, and then your your face lighting is color balanced blue, and it just like it doesn't work at all. But then the other thing is like, what is with everyone having the bookcase behind them? It's like, I don't know if it makes you look smarter or you think that you can like be clever with the items you position there, but
yes, I also have 10 Emmys that I put on my bookshelf, Dan. Don't you?
Yeah, right. But I don't know what it is, but let's try to get a little more creative people here with backgrounds. It doesn't always
I
have
mean,
to be
I
a
have a
show and tell
bookshelf.
of your book library.
I have a bookshelf here in my office. It's off to my right hand side. I intentionally made sure that it was not on camera when I was setting up my office because, well, first of all, it's no one's business what books I have on it. People have been caught with some pretty embarrassing material that you probably don't want people to know you have on your shelf. Or you just look ridiculous, like our friend Mr. Google, who has some books there to make himself look smart, but then intentionally positions them so that you can't see the spines. Like they could just be blank paper for all we know. Like
Yeah, I think
you
I
don't know
have
what
that.
they are. So it's like, what's really going on here?
Yeah,
Yeah, there we are.
here's his setup. Now you can tell that this has been like meticulously
Oh crap!
crafted,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
But it's so sterile at the same time. Like it's clean, it's bright, it's well lit. The camera's positioned properly. It looks like he probably has decent audio, but at the same time, it's so sterile. It's not even.
it's pretty
interesting.
dull.
It looks like he's in a padded room in a mental asylum.
I can guarantee you, though, there was probably like a small team of stakeholders who selected those vases and like determined the stacking of that book. And like, do we have enough plant in this shot or do we need a little more? I think they could have just pulled the plant out. It's not doing much for me, but
No, it's plastic anyways.
but it's just
Yeah.
even with that, like his lighting is like, he's got a lot of shadow from his glasses, and there's no roll off. There's some sort of shadows that aren't really helping his face shape look
Right.
the best
At
it
the
can.
same time, this Twitter account is hilarious. So anyone wants to check out Room Raider, go ahead. But they gave it a 9 out of 10, and I actually agree with that because overall, his lighting compared to like pretty much anybody
Oh, yeah,
else
for sure.
in their feed is way better.
It's pretty good. Yeah, I mean,
Compared to this lady, unfortunate lady. I don't mean to pick on you, but not only is your virtual background so obvious and terrible, but your lighting is terrible.
yeah,
camera's
and then
terrible.
I think the most common mistake is the mix of cool and warm light sources. So if you're looking for the quick fix, it's if you're using daylight, if you have a big window, you need to color balance your lights to something like 4800 Kelvin or higher to be able to get a good lighting setup.
Right.
If you don't have a big light source in your room, you can color balance to warm. So use some practicals like lamps, like what I have.
Yep.
And then balance your your key lights to a warmer color temperature. You'll get a better result.
I have some LED lights that I use as a key light. They were not expensive at all. They come with a remote control that includes temperature control and brightness control. These were not expensive. These were very cheap. Well, one of the other pictures you had, nothing surprises me when it comes from Bobert. But anyway, that's a whole other topic. But Mr. Jack Dorsey, who just sold that NFT for $2.9 million, why are we in your kitchen, bro? Come on.
You think that's actually his kitchen?
It might be virtual, to be honest, because if that's his kitchen, I mean, like it looks like a restaurant kitchen. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Well, he
look
looks like
an
he could
actual
be
kitchen.
some kind of minimalist kind of guy.
He could be.
I want to know
be.
what the counter is that he has behind him. That's, is that a
Clock,
wink, wink, nod,
1952.
nod?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Or how many
That's-
$1 million he made that day.
It's the price counter for his next second tweet NFT. That's what that is. Yeah, I mean, again, it's like there's some people that have more resources than I will ever see in my lifetime, and they can't apparently get it right, and that should be embarrassing. Is I guess the final, the final punch.
Well, I mean, with that comes some opportunity. If you raise your game just a little bit, the
stand out.
returns, you do stand out for the right reasons. So, good time
And people are
to
gonna
maybe
listen to
invest in
you.
your setup. Yeah.
Again, coming back to what you said earlier, Dan, why do gamers push it forward? The biggest gamers that are on Twitch, for example, streaming on Twitch, they put a lot of effort into their production quality, right? And it looks good. It sounds good. And that's why people pay attention. If it looked bad and sounded bad, they would have no viewers. So it might seem like, okay, the content is different, gaming versus whatever, but it's the same problem that has to be solved. If you want viewers, if you want interaction, you want people to listen to you, it's got to look good and sound good. And that's pretty much it.
Well, hopefully we look and sound good here today. I don't know. It's looking pretty crisp.
We do all right.
I'm monitoring the stream on YouTube right now. It looks pretty crisp. I'm sending like 8,500 kilobits over SRT into our virtual studio. So
I'm not
that's
sending
pretty
that
decent.
much because I don't have fiber like you do. So I'm a little more limited, but I'm also limited for space, right? I only have this one room in my house. But again, if I'm Jack Dorsey, who has millions and millions and millions of dollars, I'd just go build a studio, right?
Yeah, really. I mean, I think there is a case to be made if you're like an executive at a company. Why not outfit your office with a basic setup? Throw down a Pearl Nano at your desk and then tell your IT guys or your production team to, remotely control that box for you and
funny
look
enough,
good wherever you appear.
Yeah, the guys over at Linus Tech Tips, fellow Canadians, I watch quite a bit of their content for a lot of reasons, and we've worked with them in the past and hope to again in the future. But, they've been going through this process of doing an Intel-sponsored extreme tech upgrade for their employees, right? And going through, and people can pick their shopping list with a budget of $5,000. Well, if I had that opportunity, and so it was like $5,000 for your home setup, I would build a studio.
Right.
Like not this modified janky one that I worked out for a couple $100. I would take $5,000 and build an actual studio because that's more than enough to make it good. So
heck yeah. I mean, you throw if you took $1,000 into your lighting setup, you have something that will really stand out.
I have $150 worth of lighting in my office. That's all.
Yeah,
and it's way more than enough. It's way more than enough. $1,000, I could make this room soundproof, and it would be perfect.
Yeah, I think I've got a 3-point lighting set up, but I think the total value of it is under $500. It's got to be like maybe $300-$400. Yeah. So you can do pretty well with not a huge investment. The thing that I get a little annoyed with is always seeing the ring lights. Everybody's using ring lights as though that's a good thing. But really, a ring light is supposed to work where you put the lens of your camera in the center of the ring, and that means that you have no shadows. It's a shadow-free shot. A ring light is not meant to be used as a key light. It doesn't have an even roll-off on your skin or anything.
And for those of us who wear glasses, they're really bad because you'll see the ring reflection out of the glasses.
It doesn't look good.
It's very distracting.
Yeah, so if that would be my tip is get away from the ring lights, people. I know that there's a trend for them, but
they have their place, right? Like they became very popular with the YouTubers who do like makeup tutorials and stuff like that.
And that makes a lot of sense, right?
And it's perfect for that kind of content because they're shooting it often on their phone or with a camera shot through the center of the ring, the way it's supposed to be, no shadows, and it fits the content perfectly. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't fit another style of content, and that's
it grinds our gears. That's the point.
It does.
So
it does. Do better, people. Do better.
So I think George, was there anything else we want to cover today, or anybody in chat? Anything going on? Let us know. But
no, I mean, people in chat are kind of laughing at us a little bit about our grinding gears. Faithful Message is just saying, I'd rather see books than boobies in the background. Fair point. Fair point. And Tim Trott was just saying, in regards to the virtual backgrounds, their hair keeps morphing. Again, it's like if you really want to do virtual backgrounds, just buy green screen. The green screen cloth is like $20, people. It's not expensive. It's not hard. But lighting is important with green screens, so you can't just do that. Anyway, so
there's a whole rabbit hole we could go down there, but we should probably wrap it up. We've ranted enough, I think, for today.
I could rant all day, but yeah. But Tim also mentioned, he's commented about bad echo on YouTube channels and bought Blue Yetis and stuff like that to try and fix things. And yeah, it could be that simple. It doesn't have to be a big ask.
Well, there you go. All right. So what? I guess we're going to be back in 2 weeks.
Yes, we do this show every 2 weeks, not weekly anymore. Yeah,
and our guest for the next episode, we have an interesting musical episode, I think, on the next episode of Live at Epiphan. What's that all about?
So it's a platform that helps musicians collaborate, and that's kind of what we're going to be looking at.
What's it called? Pajam Jam?
Yeah, Pajam. Pajam is the platform. So we're going to have some guests join us to talk about that, what it does, how it can help. I'll be honest, as probably one of the least musical people in the entire company, I will not be part of that show because I have nothing to offer there. I'm better at ranting than I am at music. But it actually is really interesting because a lot like some of the things we were just complaining about, one of the final barriers to all of this remote stuff is music. The existing technologies are not great for it, and everyone's been scrambling to figure out how do we do music collaboratively remotely. And so Pajam might be one of those possibilities, and we're going to explore that with the folks over there. So as always, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, do all those socially things in all the various socially places that you might use. We are, of course, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, all those places. Twitch sometimes. Crowdcast, which is turning into more of a socially thing, which is cool. If you missed our interview with Cy from Crowdcast, go back and check that out. And we'll, of course, have more webinars and more video content that we're posting every single week. And then this show every 2 weeks. So, yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Oh, it was great hanging out with you today, George, and you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you soon.
Someday, you and I will get to go for a ride. Maybe we'll film it with an Insta360.
Oh, I can't wait, man. We had some good weather this week, so yeah, we got to get out on the bike soon. So
Soon enough.
More to come.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.